Moving on to financial inclusion in emerging markets. Because of the high cost of know your customer compliance and overhead, banks generally are providing trade finance services to medium and large corporates that have larger dollar transactions and trade finance services needs, resulting in the exclusion of smaller businesses and banks around the world, especially in emerging markets. Earlier this year, Contour's Chief Product Officer, Joshua Croker, published in Contour's blog that the company's next phase is tokenizing digital assets and using Contour's existing platform to support a decentralized digital asset marketplace. Carl, what does this vision look like? What kind of assets are we tokenizing? And how is this going to help small to medium-sized businesses and banks in emerging markets?
Okay, so let's go back to your first part of the question, right? And you're absolutely right. Banks, the cost to serve for trade finance products has a base case, and it doesn't make sense to do it for very small transactions. And that's one of the things we're solving in Contour is bringing down that cost to serve so that banks can say a smaller an SME, MSME transaction, it's still worth it to do. And we've also on ourselves built up on top of the original platform an ability to scale so we can also offer a low-cost model for SMEs. So that's something we built because we realize that trade finance is not just big and big, it's big and small. And most of the platforms that have been built, whether on blockchain or non-blockchain, over the past 20 years, have only catered to the top 100, 200, maybe 500 customers in the world. No one else uses them because they weren't scalable to SMEs. So I think we've conquered that by offering an SME product because for Contour, we want the buyers and sellers both on the platform. Now, tokenization of digital trade assets is something that's quite interesting, and it hits a lot of the buzzwords that people are excited about. We see that as an opportunity. We are actually, managing trade assets. We are digitizing them. Is that an opportunity to tokenize them and distribute them between banks to other parties that might want to buy those assets? Absolutely, it's a great opportunity. Where that might help the SMEs is where banks lower cost to serve means that banks will do more transactions at a lower cost. But as soon as you digitize it, tokenize it, automate it, you can potentially group up, aggregate these assets and sell them as an asset class. And this is, what's been done in real estate. It's done in other businesses, and it hasn't really done trade finance because the cost of managing those paper stacks wasn't worth it. So very often distribution of assets only happens when the asset is over $5 million. Well, how many transactions are $5 million? Quite a lot, but there's a lot more that are $1 million, $500,000, 50,000. So we see the ability to digitize them is an opportunity to aggregate, to help build a bigger pie for all to share. And that could be banks, it could be alternate service providers, but it's a great opportunity to expand that universe.
That's a very interesting big picture use case. Is what's in the pipeline to see something in production, or what's the latest proof of concept that you're trying to prove?
So we have an innovation lab, and so we've already mocked this up for that. We're looking at our ecosystem to tell us when to start it. So we see, again, it's one of those things. We don't want to build something and the old adage of you build it, they'll come, not necessarily in software, right? You have to build something that they want, that the customers want. So it's something we've been looking at it when our corporates, when our banks tell us that's the time to bring that to market. Looking forward to doing it. We've done a lot of the background work already. And it's a tremendous opportunity. Anytime you can digitize paper, it's an opportunity to to make things more efficient, aggregate it, and do things you never could do when it was paper. The example, 20 years ago, I was working for a company on that we worked with an importer, and that importer imported a lot of winter coats into the US from Asia, all over Asia. And coats are dutyable. You have to pay duty on them. Hangers are not, they're duty free. Well, by automating again, you could never do this on paper, but in a container, it had 5,000 coats. If you had the system automatically write a script for a customs invoice per hanger, then you aggregated that, and then you can actually save a lot of money. That company saved $1 million in import fees because they now had a custom invoice for every hanger. That's the power of digitizing that previous paper. You could never have thought the cost of manually doing that before would have made it impossible. But it's bits and bytes, digitizing. There's a lot of things. And this is opportunity for, as well, the banks to offer more products, or other providers to offer more products once you have this verified digital data and the milestones in a trade transaction.
Given that this platform is meant to focus more down market, so to speak, on smaller, medium-sized enterprises, how does Contour define small and medium-sized enterprises who would be a fit for this marketplace from both a geography and top-line revenue perspective?
Yeah, so we're available in 51 countries, so we're covering a lot of developing markets, and those developing markets are the ones that use LCs more than others. So we're eager to continue to build in China, in Bangladesh, in Vietnam, looking at Turkey, these emerging markets where there's a lot of SMEs that need help. Our service is web-based, so the minimum a customer needs is a web browser to use us. So the barrier to entry is pretty low. If they don't have the internet, sorry, we can't help them. And I know that internet is not ubiquitous throughout the whole world. That's another debate. But if you're a company, you probably have access to the internet. The web browser works perfectly fine. If you're a customer that does 1-2 transactions a month, there's plenty of value of signing up and using that web browser to communicate with your banks and your counterparties in a much more seamless fashion.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like and subscribe button and turn on notifications to stay up to date with us. We also produce a weekly newspaper packed with the latest Web3 news from emerging markets. The link to get access is in the description below. And if you really like the video, share it with your friends and leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for supporting the channel.